Today, we're diving into the deeply unsettling true story of the Shea family. This is a story about what happens when your perfect dream home, a historic house in Arkansas, turns into an absolute nightmare. We're going to walk through their entire terrifying ordeal, from the very first strange warnings right up to the moment they had no choice but to run for their lives. But to really understand just how bad things got, we're actually going to start near the end with one of the single most chilling moments this family ever went through. So picture this. Jamie Shea is working on her computer. It's probably late at night. Her 5-year-old son Bridger comes downstairs, but something is very wrong. He seems like he's in some kind of trance. He walks right up to his mom, gets inches from her face, and just lets out this deep, horrifying laugh. A laugh that is absolutely 100% not his own. And he just keeps doing it. It was a moment of pure, undiluted terror that perfectly captured everything they'd been living with. So you have to be asking, right? How on earth did it get to this point? How did a family's dream turn into that? Well, to answer that, we need to hit rewind and go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, let's jump back to October 2003. Let's meet the Shea family. You've got Jamie and her husband Ben, and their 3 kids, Tori, Bridger, and Jackson. They were doing what a lot of families do, looking for a bigger house, a place with a yard where their kids could grow up. And boy, did they find it, a gorgeous colonial home in Lamar, Arkansas. We're talking one of the oldest homes in the entire state, loaded with character, 4 fireplaces, the whole shebang. And the price? It was almost too good to be true. For Jamie, this was it. This was the house she'd always dreamed of. But during their very first tour of the house, they walked into an upstairs bedroom and found this. A fireplace all boarded up, a giant pentagram spray painted across it, melted candle wax everywhere, and maybe creepiest of all, the full name of a boy who had actually died in that house, also spray painted right there. Despite this, and I mean, what a massive red flag, they just figured some local kids broke in and did it. They decided not to let it scare them away from their dream home. Okay, so they move in, and this is where things start to get really weird. Almost immediately, the family starts getting these strange, unprompted warnings from people they don't even know. So the first one happens while they're having a yard sale. A woman they've never seen before just walks up, puts her hand on the porch railing, looks at Jamie, and says this. She says she can feel a lot of spirits, a lot of energy. You can imagine Jamie was pretty freaked out, but, what do you even do with that? Then came the second warning, and this one was way more specific. A greeter at the local Walmart recognizes Jamie, tells her she actually grew up in that very house, and then just drops this bomb. It's haunted. But she didn't stop there. She told Jamie a story her family had passed down about a young boy who had fallen from a window and died, in the exact room that was now their son Bridger's bedroom. All right, so the warnings were one thing. But pretty soon, it wasn't just about feelings or what strangers were saying. Things started happening inside the house. The activity was definitely starting to ramp up. And it just kept getting worse month by month. First, Ben's on baby monitor duty and hears a baby crying, only their baby wasn't even in the house. Then, little Bridger starts saying he hears a whole crowd of people talking in his room at night. From there, it moves to loud physical sounds, like a fist banging on the wall. Then the sound of a ball bouncing down the stairs. And finally, footsteps on the staircase when they knew for a fact everyone was in their beds. And what was so terrifying for them is that so much of this seemed to be focused on the kids, especially Bridger. He became absolutely terrified of his own room. His sister Tori would hear his toys going off by themselves, only to run in and find him fast asleep in their parents' bed. The hallway right outside his room became this weird electrical vortex. Light bulbs would burn out in hours, batteries and lamps would die instantly. They even called an electrician, who found nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with the wiring. So you can just imagine the state this family was in. The constant fear, the fact that no one was getting any sleep. It was creating this pressure cooker of extreme stress. And that constant pressure, it was about to spill over into their lives in a truly devastating way. It all came to a head one afternoon. Jamie was driving the kids home from school when she had to swerve to avoid a construction barrel that was just sitting in the middle of the road. She overcorrected, and their minivan flipped over and over, finally landing upside down. Now, what's really important here is how clear-headed Jamie is about this. She doesn't blame some ghost for grabbing the steering wheel. She's much more grounded than that. She believes that the pure physical and mental exhaustion from living in that house, the total lack of sleep, the constant anxiety, is what made her jumpy. She thinks it's what made the accident happen. And the outcome of that crash was just horrific. Their daughter, Tori, was thrown from the vehicle and was actually pinned underneath it. In what can only be described as a miracle, she survived, but with a broken back. She ended up spending 10 long days in the hospital recovering. So after the accident, once Tori was finally starting to recover, Jamie knew. She knew they couldn't handle this on their own anymore. It was time to call in for help. So she reached out to a group called the Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research, also known as CASPR. When the investigators showed up, it was like immediate validation for everything the family had been going through. The psychic medium on the team, a woman named Violet, walked right into Bridger's room and described the feeling in there as a sea of people. I mean, that's almost exactly what Bridger had been trying to tell his parents all along about the voices he was hearing. So the team decides to use a Ouija board, and the answers they got were just pure nightmare fuel. They asked for a name, and it spelled out S-E-T-H. Then they asked, "When were you alive?" The board spelled back, "Never." And then when they asked, "Can we see you?" the planchette slid right over and pointed at the camera, as if to say, "You already are." And this wasn't just about one spirit named Seth, not even close. The psychic investigator Violet reported sensing at least a dozen different entities in that home, and possibly even more. A whole range of them, from maybe harmless to something not so harmless. The investigators tried to help. They performed a cleansing ritual with sage, hoping to clear out all that negative energy, but it backfired, big time. After the team left, the house became ice cold, and for the very first time, the family felt a presence that was truly evil. That unnerving feeling they'd been living with had turned into something downright malicious. The absolute final straw, the moment they knew they had to get out, came from the most bizarre place. Jamie was listening to a mix CD she'd burned. Out of nowhere, the player jumps to a track that doesn't exist, track 99. And a voice starts repeating, over and over, "You need to help." They checked the CD later. There was no track 99. No song had those lyrics. It was impossible. And that was it. That was the point of no return. That very same night, the Shears were done. They grabbed whatever they could, packed up their family, and walked away from that house, never, ever to spend another night there again. So this whole ordeal leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the experience the Shea family had was undeniably real to them. It cost them their peace, their health, and it almost cost them their daughter's life. It really makes you wonder, when a home stops feeling safe and starts actively hurting you, does it even matter if the cause is paranormal or purely psychological? The damage is just as real. It's amazing, really. Today, Jamie Shea has channeled all of that trauma into a quest for answers by co-hosting her own paranormal podcast.